they're interested. I'm wondering what sort of capture software could he use? It's not a go-to mount. It's a simple, right ascension, clockwork drive. But I could see him possibly doing planetary or
Planetary to the
similar
moon.
things.
Sure.
Is there? My question is: there an easy beginner's capture software that a person like him would?
That's a relative term.
Yeah,
Good luck on that one.
yeah,
After a year or two, it really gets easy. No, it's not that bad. The planetary is actually a lot easier than deep sky. There's a lot less complications,
yeah.
But the typical programs people use is either Fire Capture, which is free, or Sharp Cap. And there's a free version of that too.
Okay.
And he could download those. And I shot for years up until about 4 years ago. I didn't have a go-to mount. I had big Edmund Scientific mounts. I had the 8-inch mount, the 6-inch mount. I still have the 6-inch. I bring it to star parties sometimes, but you can take that and you can capture really nice moon pictures and planetary pictures.
Yeah.
Because when you're shooting the moon and planets, you're doing a video. So you're shooting a lot of frames that are very short exposures. So, and the software is going to pick out the best ones, basically. You capture all of them, but then later on you go through other free software that sorts it.
Yeah.
I'll talk briefly about that later on.
Okay.
But yeah. But yeah, he could definitely do it. I would start with the moon, though. The moon's the best.
Yeah. I gave him.
Start with the big target, so you don't have trouble finding it.
Yeah, and keep it in the field.
Yeah, I gave him the camera a couple days ago, and I included a USB with the driver because IOPTRON made it difficult to find the driver, and he got it set up overnight, and he's got an image. So,
well, there you go.
Yeah.
He's well on his way then.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he sounds like he will do fine. He'll progress quickly.
That's the benefit of young minds.
It's an F5, huh?
I think it's an F5. It's a
Wow.
very short tube.
Huh.
Actually, during Shoemaker Levy years ago, I had an old guitar case for an acoustic guitar, and I had to go to California, and I packed that in this guitar case with the tripod and everything. It disheveled the case, but I didn't get much of Shoemaker Levy. We saw Jupiter, but no details. So that was interesting.
I'm just picturing the look on the TSA agents' faces.
Yeah, really.
Opening up the guitar case.
It was 1994
here.
Yeah. It's a bazooka.
What is this? Could you step over here, sir?
Yeah, right.
Your papers, please. I just got a mini cam 8, so
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nelson.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm into mono now. I got a QHY Minicam 8 with an integral filter wheel. So yeah, it's getting complicated.
Yeah. Prasad joined us tonight, and I think Prasad, you mentioned if you're there, mentioned about joining us a little more regularly. I know you had some questions regarding the PhD 2 and some stuff like that. Is there anything that first of all, welcome back. And then also, is there anything in particular you wanted to discuss regarding some of the challenges you're facing with keeping things running cleanly?
Yeah. No, not today. I was able to get my mount connected through the USB port. That's what you guys had suggested. So I have done that, but I have not been able to try it out in the open because the weather.
Yeah.
So probably tomorrow evening, I'm going to try, and it seems to be working. See, my problem is it's not that PhD 2 was not working. When it worked, it worked on some nights. I was able to do polar alignment, no problem at all. It went through. Okay. So that, it took me an hour or so too, because I'm not so used to doing that thing. So it took me more than an hour. So then I got fed up and pulled out. Then next time when I tried, it just refused. I just couldn't understand what was going on. I was getting constantly, again and again, I was getting the same problem of ASCOM driver failure or whatever, that kind of a fault. So I hope this USB cable connection through the USB port, it works. I hope so.
Yeah, I think it will. It should make it more, at least repeatable, more reliable. So the problem that Prasad was having is that he was trying to get a system up and running to do some deep sky imaging, and he was using the guiding software, a PhD too, and he was able to use it sometimes reliably, like you said, the polar align and stuff. But then when he would go back to it, he kept getting these ASCOM errors. And he had reached out to me and John, and one of the things that was suggested to him was to try using a hard USB physical connection. He was using Wi-Fi, and he was connecting fine over Wi-Fi, but that could be part of the issue. So that's what he's gonna try, is using a hard USB connection to see if that gives him more reliable operation. And that's something I know from John's experience, that's a more reliable situation. And even though Wi-Fi theoretically works, it's a level of complication in the connectivity that you really don't need to have there. Because most of these things work via sort of virtual COM ports. So there's so many layers of translation to get to a Wi-Fi signal, then back to a sort of COM emulator or a COM port emulator, that you want to get stuff out of the way if you can. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Prasad, that you'll have good luck with that, and then you can report at an upcoming meeting on your progress.
Yeah.
Quite,
My other second problem was, the mount that I'm using is something that I built, or I made it.
Yeah.
So, using on step, and it seems to be good. So far, it has not given any trouble. I've been using it for my solar for several months now. I have not had any problem, but the problem was only now.
where do you get the parts for that drive?
eBay.
Oh, okay.
What controller are you using for that?
On step X.
Okay, so that's the one that Tom Skrovanak, I think, talked about, right, at a previous meeting. I think he did a presentation on a mount conversion that he did using that.
Oh, I've done several mounts conversions.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been an on-step user for several years now.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And that's from what I've heard, fairly reliable system.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have several. Yeah. The new thing with this is that it's got this harmonic drives or harmonic reducers. And the second thing is I'm using a Chinese-made circuit board. It's a 3D printer circuit board. I don't know how to pronounce it. FISTEC or FISET E4 board, and it's seems to be standard. The only problem is I'm not able to connect my handheld hand controller, the wired version. I have to use a Wi-Fi version. That's the only difference. Yeah. The mount is working fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what you use for the SGH, right?
Yeah,
Or the SHG, I
SHG.
mean,
Yeah, yes,
spectroheliograph.
yes.
Quite different working in the dark, eh?
I think I found the board and posted a link for anyone interested. Bisect.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thanks, John. So, okay.
The 3D printer board, though. Yeah, I see. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So it controls the motors. Okay. That's fascinating.
Hmm.
No, John, I also have regular boards, the not which I built and I assembled them together myself. I have
Okay.
them also. Yeah, I have both versions. But
That's awesome.
for this mount, I just chose to use the 3D printer mount.
Yeah, it's motor control. So yeah, totally.
Well, that's great. We'll be anxious to track your progress, and obviously, if any questions come up, we'll do our best to guide you along. Any other questions before we kind of jump into the regular meeting? We'll have time for show and tell and Q&A afterwards. So okay, let me do this. I'm going to move this here. What is all this? Make this go away. Okay, and then where are my controls? Oh, here we go. Okay, so you guys should see a screen there that
Yep.
says DVA
Got it.
Astrophotography Workshop.
And we got it.
Okay, so tonight we're going to have a presentation by Tom Nolasco on the WaveSharp freeware software, and that's primarily used for solar system image processing. Tom had talked about it briefly during one of the clinics, one of the indoor clinics that we held in January and February, and he's going to go into a little more detail about that tonight. Afterwards, we'll do show and tell of any recently acquired and or processed images, any new equipment, techniques, and things like that that people have. Coming up in terms of future meetings, June 24th is an open meeting right now. We don't have anything scheduled. I have some possible topics we can talk about, and I'd like to get your feedback on those topics or those possible topics to try to make sure that we're orienting this meeting towards what people want to see. On July, I'm sorry, 22nd, Bill McGeeney has offered to do a presentation on the image that he recently posted that he took at Raystown Lake of the star trails. He did sort of a Milky Way stars trail image that he is going to show how he took that, how he processed that image. So that's on July 22nd. August 26th is still an open meeting. So if there's anyone who wants to present anything in particular or talk about anything, please let me know, get in touch with me, and we can open up, we can reserve part of that meeting for that purpose. September, Nico Carver, I believe, is still of Nebula Photos is still planning to talk. Brett was with Nico at the on his recent trip down to South America. So maybe Brett, when we you can give us a little bit of update on that if there's any particular topic, or if not, then just reach out to me directly.
Yeah, I didn't, we
We have
didn't, we,
October. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
yeah,
Brett.
we had lunch with him. He was doing a seminar, a workshop there. And Tim and I had lunch with him prior to him starting his workshop. We didn't talk about what he's still planning on the 23rd, so he's
Okay.
confirmed for that. But the content, I don't know.
Okay. That's perfect then. Yeah. Yeah, because I knew you were going to meet up with them there. October 21st is open. November and December. Now, Wayne Reed has offered to do a presentation on using Searle, kind of getting started with Searle and using Searle for image processing. He's thinking that would wind up being closer to the end of the year, possibly the November timeframe, something like that. But he's not positive yet. The December meeting, I will be actually out of town for that December meeting, so I'll be looking for someone to kind of run that meeting in my absence. And maybe that's an open meeting. It can be certainly a presentation. I don't need to be there for a presentation, obviously, but with the holidays and stuff like that, maybe we keep that as a sort of open meeting so that people aren't under any extra pressure around the time of the holidays. So as far as the June meeting goes, so I have some possible topics that I'd be happy to put together. I know, Brett, you had talked about possibly doing something at some point on your trip. This might be too soon. Obviously, we have August and September, I mean, August, October, and all those things. If you're interested in doing something at the June meeting, I certainly defer to that, since that's, these things can be done at any time that I'm suggesting here. But I don't want to put any pressure on you. Don't want to, kind of drive it in that direction.
I'd be ready in July or any time after that. But June 24th
Okay.
might be a little tight for me.
Yeah, so maybe the August meeting,
Okay,
if you're interested in that.
that's
Because
good.
Bill McGeeney is currently scheduled for July.
Okay,
So maybe the August 26th meeting if you're around.
yep,
Okay.
okay.
So as far as the June meeting, so one thing we could do is have an open session just for show and tell. If you go back to the previous meetings, Tom's doing the Wave Sharp tonight. The April meeting I did a short talk on the back to basics for the GHS tool. And then we had 2 open sessions before that. And then in January, Joe Lamb did the lunar image acquisition and processing. So an open session is not a bad thing. Obviously, it gives people more time to show and tell. I know the weather hasn't been great, so I try to make sure that, even if we give a presentation, we still have time to do show and tell. But certainly a presentation cuts into that. So with that in mind, I have a couple suggestions for some shorter presentations, more like 30-ish minutes, including Q&A. I recently happened to go up to Hickory Run during the new moon, and conditions weren't great, but it wasn't raining and it wasn't cloudy. So transparency wasn't that good. And I brought my Red Cat with me. So I did a very rich field image of M13, which is almost kind of silly when you think about M13, because it's tiny. And the image is about 5.5 degree field of view by like 3.5 degree field of view. But I'd be happy to show processing that. It's a relatively simple type image to process, because you don't really need to do star extraction and then star recombination. So if that's something people would be interested in seeing, I'd be happy to do that. I also took a picture that same night, and I'll be showing both of these during the show and tell, of a rich field image of Markarian's chain using that same setup, a Red Cat 51. That does have star extraction, but since the galaxies are tiny, 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 it's a relatively simple image to process even with star extraction. So I think that could be on the shorter side. Another thing that I've played with recently, since the weather's been so lousy for so long, is taking a look at some previously processed images that I did. And like I've learned a lot since I started playing with PixInsight 2 years ago. And what can I get out of them? Doing relatively minor adjustments to what I did before to process them. And just as a quick example of that, so here's an image that I had. In fact, this is the one that Al Lamperti used in his article in Sky and Telescope last December. So this is IC 405 and IC 410. Before, this is the image that I gave to Al for Sky and Telescope. This is it with literally about, I would say, no more than 5 minutes of just doing a minor change to the curves and to the histogram. So you look at this, it's the same exact data, and 95% of the processing is the same, except for a very slight tweak, just because I know a little bit more about how to use the tools now. So, and there are some other pictures, some other images that I've gone back, things that I took 3-4 years ago and said, I think I can get a little more out of that since I'm better at it now. But that could be a good learning mechanism, because we've talked before about stretching and how important stretching is and some of the nuances of stretching. And then lastly, would be a longer type presentation. I'm thinking this would be an hour, kind of, maybe a tiny bit more with Q&A, showing the processing of that up close image of M51 that I posted to the group a couple of weeks ago, and then it wound up getting included in the newsletter, since the newsletter came out after the beginning of the month. That is star extraction, but it's also playing with some masking and stuff like that, so I didn't blow out the core of the galaxy, stuff like that. My preference is probably to lean towards a shorter presentation so that we don't cut too much into show and tell. With an hour-long presentation, a lot of times there's not much time afterwards left for show and tell, and it gets kind of rushed. So I'd like to get your feedback. What would people like to see out of this kind of lineup or possible lineup? Any hands for like maybe we can narrow it down. A shorter presentation. Okay, so shorter presentation. What about a show, like just an open session, show and tell? Do you feel like it's better to have that for the whole thing, or just do sort of a little shorter show and tell with a short presentation?
M13?
So I'm so sorry.
M13?
M13?
Yeah, for beginners, like that would be more appropriate. Beginners like me, I mean.
Sure, yeah, and that's the simplest in terms of the processing. That would be the simplest. It would talk about stretching. It would talk about, like histogram curves, GHS, things like that. Watching out in terms of blowing out the core, because M13 core can easily get blown out. It's fairly bright. Any other
yeah,
thoughts?
I'd like the shorter. Yeah, the two shorter. I think the shorter being more 10,000 foot explanations.
Okay.
Just not as much, not diving as much into detail, getting lost in detail.
Okay. Sparky.
Yes, from my standpoint, any of those presentations that get into kind of the very basics of using either PixInsight or Photoshop to just do simple things like stretching the image would be very helpful.
Okay. And this is I'm going to I have the M13 image here. I'm going to just try to drag that over here. So this is what that would be the image we're talking about. So this was shot Richfield. So it's a fairly, like I said, it's about 5.5 degree field of view by around almost 4 degrees, like 3 3/4, something like that. And that would be the simplest of the three to process. So does that sound good to people?
Sounds great.
Yeah, I would go with that.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Cool. I get that out of the way. And then we can always, depending on how things go later on in the year, we still have slots to fill. I'd be happy to revisit any of these. And Nelson, I had thought of you with the M51, and that's why I kind of put this here. But that's the most involved, and it gets fairly deep in terms of masking and things like that to preserve to kind of do an image like that justice.
Yeah.
You don't have to do masking for that if you're really careful, but I had some background. I shot it with a C6, and it wasn't a great night. It was kind of hazy, and there was some background sort of sky glow light pollution. So I wound up actually like doing an inverse mask on the background only to suppress some of the colors that I was getting in the background. So those are a little trickier techniques. And then this topic, I think at some point would be fun because it's amazing how little has to be done to go from something like the image on the left to the image on the right. And to me, they look notice. And in fact, there's even a little more that I would do to that. I would probably not brighten up this the sort of central part of the flaming star nebula as much. But that's something we might want to visit later on in the year. But for next month, we'll do the M13. I'll put together a short presentation on that.
Hey, Gary, for October, you might want to tap on Agapios because it's going to start to be, in October will be Saturn opposition. You got Jupiter later and Mars getting larger at, early 27.
Okay.
It might be good to bring us to tap on him because he'd be probably very happy to do it. And he does a really nice job.
Yeah.
And we can
that'd be
check his
great.
observatory in Cyprus out at the same time.
Right. Yeah, no, this is a great suggestion. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Okay, so for tonight, we have our very own Tom Nolasco. And you need the sweat. I can see this. So Tom's going to be giving
That's my whole presentation right there.
Yeah, there you go. On the wave shore. Okay, now on the show and tell.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned Bill McGeeney on July 22nd is going to be stepping us through exactly what he did to capture this picture and process it. And then in September, Nico Carver will be giving a talk, topic to be determined. So I'm going to stop my share. And we'll close that. Okay. So without further ado, go for it, Tom.
Okay, just make sure see if this works. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
See a folder?
Yeah, I can't see my icons at the bottom. Why is that? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and go back to my PowerPoint then, and I'll select that one. It always goes so smoothly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why is it? Okay.
I finally figured out how to get my PowerPoint to show up on the primary monitor.
Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah, your presentation.
Good. Okay. Well, we're going to talk a little about Wave Sharp, but Before we go, I'm going to mention a couple things how you kind of get to this point, because there's some interesting steps to get a good image. Why?
Yeah.
Oh, you son of a gun. I'm in. Okay, here's what we'll do. Whoa. It was odd. Why is it doing that? I'm really good at this. Oh, go on. I don't even know what happened to it there. Wow, that's weird. Okay, let's do this again. Let's try this again. We'll do another time. I don't know why it when I brought up the
Hit escape.
yeah, I'm going to escape. I'm just going to bring up this and I'll bring it up through there. Maybe this might be better.
Are you sharing the app or the desktop?
Well, I tried the desktop, but I lost all of my icons at the bottom, so I couldn't open any programs.
Oh.
Which
Hmm.
now I'm going to try opening up the window, but it's not full. Now, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, now if I enlarge that and I say start, hopefully I can continue. Okay, here we go. Okay. Remember these days, guys? This is what you were talking about, Nelson. There's an Edmund
Yeah.
mount with a clock drive, a 6-inch reflector on it. In this case, there's a camera on a 35 millimeter film. And you had images of Saturn and Jupiter and the moon you could capture and things like that. But things have really gotten much better.
Hmm.
Here's that same scope on the left. You can see it, but now it's mounted on the go-to mount. Tracks a lot better. And my primary scope for planetary, though I do use the 6-inch one on the left for white light solar and Venus in the daytime. I have used it for Jupiter too if I'm too lazy to get the big scope out, the one on the right, because the big scope is a big scope. It's about 8 feet long, weighs about 55 pounds, and it's a little bit to get out there. But the picture on the right, you can see Orion on top, maybe. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that was taken the night of the Mars occultation in January of 25.
Yeah. The Mars moon?
The Mars moon occultation. Anyway, so what do you need to do this stuff? Okay, you have to have a camera and an IR cutoff filter. The cameras aren't too expensive. Typical camera is the ZWO 662, 662, and they go for less than 200. And IR cutoff filter goes for about $30, and you have to have that. If you're going to do planets, though, you really want to get a Barlow, and preferably like a focal extender or a teleview type of Barlow. It's fine if you don't, but if you put an ADC, an atmospheric dispersion corrector, this thing over here, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but that over there, if you have a normal Barlow, your 2x Barlow is going to be a 3 or 4x Barlow because you're going to add that in between the Barlow and the camera. So anyway, I don't want to get too bogged down with this stuff. Anyway, you want to have that. What's nice to have is a electric focuser. It really helps just in general observing. If you haven't bought one or thought about buying one, they're really worth it. This is a Rube Goldberg version that I use on all my scopes. It pops off. It's on a Velcro mount. I pop it off, and I can fit 4 different scopes. I use the same motor on it. It's a real inexpensive little stepper motor. Anyway, this is the process. Let me ask you guys something. Is the right side of the screen getting chopped at all? Are you all good?
No,
I
good.
can see all of it.
Okay, good.
Good.
Okay, so this is Nelson talked about this. This is the far left, the capture, sharp cap and fire capture, both free. There's a pro version of SharpCap, but you don't really need it for planetary in most cases. If you start getting involved with the more advanced stuff, it's nice to have. Yeah, I use that for deep sky too. But basically, you're just taking a video and you go to a free program called AutoStacker where you stack the best, it chooses the best images, and then it'll stack them for you. And then you go into Registax or WaveSharp. Registax is the precursor to WaveSharp. It was around 15 years ago or maybe 20 years ago. And the authors of that, and hasn't been updated in 12 years at least. And it's a little concerning because at some point the Windows version is not going to work probably. It's just going to die. But the authors of that Registax, along with that, there's 2 or 3 of them, along with 3 other guys, or 6 of them now, are authors of the WaveSharp program. So they've kind of simplified the sliders. By simplifying, I mean they moved the sliders from 6 to 3, but they're still that's the trickiest part, but it's really not that tricky. And then, of course, you can go into GIMP or Photoshop or Lightroom and then bring up saturations and do that kind of a thing. And if further on, you can do WinJuPost or use John's Ubersmooth program to get even even a better image. So basically, just stacking with Registax here. Some AutoStacker. This is what the frames look like. This is a shot of just as Jupiter back in January 29th, I think. I shot 4,500 frames. The one on the left is the best frame. It'll automatically put them in order. There's the best frame, the middle frame, and the far right frame. Now, a couple of people started using SharpCap and doing the stacking live, all in one step to avoid using AutoStacker. But the problem is that you're going to include all the frames. And so even this really crappy 4,500 frame is going to be mixed in with your number 1 frame. And you really don't want to do that. Here's the stacks with different numbers of frames. You want to have a decent number of frames, usually 1,000 to 2,000, because that allows you to sharpen it more. The more frames you have, the more sharpening you can do. You hit a point with fewer frames, you can say, why not just pick the best frame? Well, the best frame looks like that. It's just on the left. It's just all grainy and everything else. Whereas you get 1,000 frames, it looks pretty smooth. If you included half the frames, you can still get a pretty decent image, but it's not quite as sharp as 1,000 frames if you notice. And if you do all the frames, you get the image, you get a stack that looks like on the right there, which is what you would get if you use SharpCap with the auto stacking. So you're going to start processing from that point versus the point on the left. And that's not going to help you out in the long run. So anyway, just to kind of recap some of that. So this is the 1,000 frame stack. This is what we're going to start with.
Hey, Tom,
Okay.
a quick question. How do you judge, like from your experience, where to sort of draw that line? Obviously, it's dependent on seeing, it's dependent on the quality. Do you have some kind of rule of thumb that you do 40% of them, or
I
you
don't
1,000, or
I don't use percentages at all. I start at 1,000 because I have to do at least 1,000. If it's a really bad night and the image is all over the place, I probably won't stack more than 1,000. Maybe even if it's just an okay night. If it's a great night, I'll try to do 2,000. I'll try to do what I'll do is I'll try it and I'll stack, because with the auto stacker you can choose what percentage or what number of frames, but you can do 4 at one time. You can choose 4 models. So I'll often choose like 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, like 2,500. And they'll have them process. And it'll give me 4 different TIFF files that have been stacked. And if the difference between more frames and the one lower isn't significant at all, then I always go with the higher number of frames, because I can, when I get in the wave sharp, I can do more sharpening with it without getting graininess. So
right, because the larger number of frames would
more
noise.
Yeah, so I'll oftentimes choose, like, I'll start at 1,000 and I'll go to 1,500, but I'll do them all at one time. They're all being done at the one fell swoop. I'll just pick one of the video files, have it go through it, and stack 4 different numbers of frames, and I'll pick that. But I'm always trying to get the most frames I possibly can. If there's not a significant difference, I will go with the higher frame. I mean, we could talk about auto stackers someday too. if you wanted to, but this is a Wave Sharp one. So using Wave Sharp. Some good things about Wave Sharp versus Registax. Two major advantages is that you can do multiple TIFF files, your stacked images at one time. When you're doing planetary imaging, you're not just going out and taking a video and you got your video and you close up your scope and move on to something else. The best way to get good planetary images is to shoot one video after another. Agapios over in Cyprus, he calls it fishing with a net versus fishing with a hook. He just continually, he does it one after. As soon as one finishes, he starts a new video, and he'll do that for hours, and he'll chew up several hundred gigs of space. What I do is with the Jupiter stuff, I always have in mind I'm going to make, or Mars, I'm going to make a short animation. So I'll shoot maybe a 20-second video, and then I'll wait 30 seconds, shoot another 20-second video. And I'll just keep doing that for a couple hours, a few hours. And some nights you can't make a video because the scene just craps out on you, because seeing really is variable and it changes quickly. It can change, and I'll show you, you'll see in this demo that just 2 frames taken, a minute apart, they're drastically different images. So it's the idea of being able to batch process. In the old Registax, you couldn't batch process. You had to do one at a time. With AutoStacker, the stacking program, you could pick all the videos that you captured in one night, load them all up, and just say stack, and it'll stack them all. Now it'll take a while, probably take an hour or two if you got a lot of videos, but you can walk away and do other things, and you come back and all your TIFF files are there. But with the sharpening programs, the old program Registax, you had to individually open a file, go through all the sharpening levels, and get to where you like it, and then maybe save all your settings, and then bring one image at a time in and go through this back and forth, save it, open, process, save. But here you can open them all at one time. And so when you're doing this, I have 3 here. I have 3 TIFFs in this example, and I'm going to run through this actually in a live demo. But you open all the images that you want to do, and then I usually pick the sharpest one, and you can see that because if you click on each TIFF file, you'll see it, and you can zoom in. There's a zoom button here, and you can pick one that looks sharp, because some of them aren't going to be sharp. Some will be really fuzzy. So just pick a sharp one, and then go about your business. And I do it when I started with this program, which is not that long ago, just about 5 or 6 months. I've only used it maybe 5, 6 times, and I didn't read anything up on it. I just you can kind of figure your way through it. But there are some really good videos, and I have a link to one that guy goes through every little nit of this thing. But I actually couldn't get as good as image as I just kind of hacked through it when I did it. So I just said, okay, this is an awful lot of work. I'm just going to do what I do. So first thing I do, whenever I bring an image in, a stacked image in, is I color balance it, because I want to see what it looks like. And in Wave Sharp, what that means, there's a little histogram button here. You hit it, and I just hit WB, and all these red, green, and blue that they weren't lined up like this, they'll all be nice and aligned and balanced. So now I got my color. Next step I do, I sharpen the image. This is the most complex step. This is where all the magic happens. It defaults up on top. Let's talk about the top. It defaults to a Gauss filter, which is just a sharpening technique. There's 3 sharpening techniques they have. Registax used to have 2. This has 3. The Gauss I always use Gaussian and Registax. Some people didn't. I thought the other ones are kind of heavy-handed. It seemed to have more control. If I just hit Gauss, and this is me, your mileage is going to vary. And don't take these numbers as gospel, but take the concepts, some general concepts as sort of gospel. But it defaults to Gauss, it defaults to OK Lab, defaults to Luminous. I put it on RGB. And then you go down here. If these aren't already clicked, you will click these. Now they default to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And on the right side of the screen, it there is no noise filter set at all. And so you'll want to go in here. I fiddled with this. I just did some experimentation where I had this number lower. I made it like it was defaults to 0.1. I made it like I tried to 0.1 and I slid the slider over. This is like there's three levels. This is like small detail, medium detail, large detail. So on the old Registax, this is like between 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6 sliders. So I tried with lower numbers here and sliding it further to get the sharpness, but it just seemed not to work as well and get grainier. So I found that around 250, if I get heavier in this, it wasn't going in the right direction. So I had this up around 250 here, and I don't slide the sliders over them. I keep the sliders instead of going all the way up here up to 120, 150, 200, whatever it is. I keep them pretty low. This is like a 29, a 25, a 23 type values. Not too much, but it seems to work out pretty well. And over on the side here, I can't see it here. I'll move it here. I got my people up. But you have to click on this. If you click on denoise, then you have these three little boxes will appear, but nothing else. So you got to click the box, and then you can set this. This defaults also to 0.1. I find 1.4 for this particular object. Now, this is where you get into the funny stuff. Everybody's stacked image is going to be different, but this is kind of a rule of thumb. Maybe it gives you a starting point because for the planets like Jupiter, Saturn, you might want to bring the slider up a little more, maybe not as much. You may have to denoise more, maybe denoise less. But for me, with Jupiter, I've did this on 3 different Jupiters. This seems to be kind of a sweet spot. And I bring the denoise up to about 1.14. And I do that for all of them. If you click it, the box comes up and the denoise comes up. And it keeps it from getting out of control. Because if you don't have denoise on, it just gets too grainy. You got to soften the sharpening. So that's sharpening. Now, like I said, I'm going to go through a live demo of this. And
Hey, Tom,
Yeah.
is that thing like the wavelets in
it's
Registax?
exactly the same, except there's
Okay.
3 versus. So the wavelets always bothered people and scared people, but it's only half as scary now because there's only 3 of them versus 6 of them. But you can see things happen pretty quick, and I'll show you that. I just want to kind of walk through this. Then I brighten the image. You notice when we sharpened it, it got really high contrast and it got darker and everything else. That's what's going to happen. And then I brighten the image. The way I brighten it, which is not the way I saw online after I did this, but this works for me. I go back to histogram. I click this little stretch to maximum button. And remember before that this histogram stopped at about here. So now I stretched it out to there. And this luminance slider here, I slide the bottom one way over. So it was at 0.5, way over being 0.661. Not that far over. But you kind of just play with it. You slide it over to get it where you get the brightness that you're happy with, you know? And it's going to depend on what your exposure was. If you, I tend to slightly underexpose my planetary images so I can bring my frame rate up. I can go with shorter exposures. I will go maybe 1 or 2 exposures lower than ideal that I would normally be for like viewing. And so I can bring my exposure down and my frame rate up and be picking another 10 frames per second up or something. And because you can always pull them back up as long as it's not too dark. But you can go down pretty low.
Tom, on this histogram, the curves going off on the right, is that clipping at that point, or is it just the scale?
I think it's just the scale. It says stretch to, it looks like it's clipping, but I said all I did was click stretch to maximum and it just brought it out. And it didn't seem to cause any major problems for me.
Yeah. The image looks good. Okay.
And I could just slide this over to get the brightness you want, and that kind of gets you there. And then finally, you notice Jupiter I didn't get it quite straight. I always try to get it close to being, parallel to the body of the picture. Oh, what's my problem here? Here we go. So there's a little button called File Actions. And one of the things you can do, there's a number of things you can do. You can play with some other things, but I don't fool with that. I just do the steps you saw, and you can do a rotate here, and you can get that till it's nice and even. So it's a nice image. It's good when you have transits and stuff like that, and shadow transits or moon transits, and when you make a GIF, it just is a little easier to look at, I think. So that's that. And then this is where you do the batch stuff. You click the batch button on top, and all your images are there. And you click this set reference button. When you click set reference, the align, rotate, batch, and a balance brightness gets highlighted, and you can click on the two check boxes, and that'll make all the images. It'll balance the brightness across all the images. So if there was a little transparency difference as the night went on, and you want to make a GIF and you don't want to get darker and brighter, by doing that, they're all processed at the same level, so your images look consistent. And then you just hit save batch down here, and you've saved, and all the images will be saved. And this happens quickly. I mean, you can do 20 images in I don't know, 30 seconds, 20 seconds. I mean, it doesn't take long.
Wow.
And
That batch mode's great because
yeah, it really
batch
is.
was always a pain in the butt
Yeah.
having to do them all separately.
And it's got one more thing here. You'll notice under that same thing, there's the batch save button, but there's an animate button. If you hit the animation button, this little bottom window pops up, and you can say what the format. You can be a GIF, or it can be an MP4, I think. This is a WBEP. You can set frames per second. You can say pause before it starts again, or reverse, if it reverses or doesn't reverse. And you can do all kinds of things. You can reverse at the end, keep going, do what you want, depending on the format. If it's a GIF, it just keeps repeating. But so you do that, and you just you set these up, you hit create animation, and it's all done. I used to have to go to, I used to use PIPP, the planetary preprocessor. When I got all my images, I load them all in there. I'd grab them as a big chunk, and then I'd go in there and I'd use that to create the animation. But you can do it all right in this program. So that's kind of a nice thing too. So it's a lot more powerful program. And I thought the first time I did it, I did an image with Registax versus WaveSharp, and I got a better image with Registax. But I'm very familiar with Registax, and I was just shooting from the hip on WaveSharp, and I go, oh, this is no good. And I really didn't want it to be good because it was something new to learn. I had my process. I didn't want to go through all this and change. But actually, I really like it. It's really good. It's really pretty simple. So that's kind of the before and after. That's kind of how it works. That's what you end up with. And then here's what I wanted to show you about seeing, because this is like a general thing about image processing with planetary captures. These images are about 30 seconds apart. The one we processed and showed there is the middle one. But look at the one 30 seconds earlier and 30 seconds later. They're not nearly as sharp. I mean, it's amazing. The sharpness level, it really changes. It changes in a very short period, but also there's trends throughout the night. I mean, it may be so at 8 o'clock at night. At 8:30, all of a sudden you can see a lot more detail starting to come out, or vice versa. You could have it's going to be a great night. You're out there, and all of a sudden it just kind of softens right up.
Wow,
so that's just kind of a general, just a thing about image processing. And if we get Agapios in October, he'll talk about this a lot, and he was totally right, and that's improved my imaging greatly. The idea of shooting a lot of images close together, and if you're lucky, and a lot of these images come out good, even if every other one comes out respectable, you can make them into a GIF, and you got a nice GIF, a nice sharp GIF. And if it's a terrible night, maybe you shot 30 of these videos, and 29 don't look so good, but one looks like the one in the middle, and you go, okay, it was worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
and they were all processed the same?
All processed the same. I just said batch process, and it just did it. That's the advantage of the batch. So it's really good. So as Gary Player would say, the more I practice, the luckier I get, because it's called lucky imaging.
Yeah.
And that's the scope on the original mount. That's the mount again, Nelson. This is an old Edmunds mount. This is with the big scope on it. And this is why my first couple years of photographing through this scope, I just used this mount. I used this till like 2022, I guess. I was using this old Edmunds mount with the planets, and this was high focal length stuff, not like the 4-inch. So your nephew or whatever will have a good time with that. So let me just I'm going to share.
Tom, one quick thing. I noticed on your slides that they were version 3. And when I looked online, it looked like version 4 of WaveSharp.
Oh, is there a 4? Because 3 was still like a beta almost when I downloaded it. It changed a lot. When I gave a planetary presentation in January, 3 was just coming out, but I had done everything in 2. But there was very little difference. But there are a couple
I'm
new
mistaken. Maybe
features.
I'm thinking it's.
Yeah,
Let me just double check.
there's a ton of features in here, and actually I didn't. There's a. I wonder if I can do that and get back there.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I had it backwards. It was version 2
No.
before. Now it's version 3.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, because 3. I mean, but so I started using 3. It's basically the same, but there are tutorials on 3, and there's 500. It's like all these programs. There's lots and lots of features to them. Even like Sharp Cap in the capturing, you can capture using about 4 different sliders, and you're all set, and you can do everything you want to do. But you'll find that there's other features there as you keep poking around. And but these features here are what I use for my planets. Just those features. That's it. Soup to nuts.
Tom, couple of questions if you don't mind.
Yeah.
First of all, I know you use SharpCap for capturing. Yeah, you're not using the live stacking.
No, because that's the problem. That's because in that
Yeah.
when I showed there was 1,000 frame stack, 2,500, 50% stack, and 100% stacked. 100% stacked was way fuzzier, and that's what you'll get. I know that a few members have tried it, and it's convenient because it's quick. It happens in real time, but you're not going to get as good an image as you could have gotten if you didn't do that.
Now, the other question is when you're doing the multiple videos, your timings again are what, like 20 to 30 seconds for each one?
Depending on the planet. On Jupiter, I try to limit it 25 seconds. If I'm doing solar chromosphere through a solar scope, I limit it 25 seconds because things happen just so quickly that they just blur if it's longer than that. Jupiter rotates. Now, Saturn rotates very quickly too, but the amount of detail I'm seeing on Saturn is not nearly as much, so I'll stretch it to like a minute or two. But on Mars, I'll shoot maybe a minute and a half, 90 seconds maybe. And because it rotates, once every 24 hours, it's a lot slower. So I'll shoot longer because you want to the goal is to get as many good frames as possible to stack. So the more frames you can stack, the more you can throw out, and the more good ones you'll have. But the thing is, you're worried about rotation because these things are moving. But so that's kind of where I do it. I know other people go 45 seconds, even a minute, like on Jupiter, but I find I have more success if I don't let it rotate as much.
And your
What
images are
about
great.
if you're doing solar? Do you keep that short if you're doing like HA kind of stuff?
Yes, and the solar. If I'm using white light and sunspots, I'll shoot like 10,000 frames, 20,000. If I shoot 30,000 frames, I'll let it shoot for 3 minutes. As long as my disc will hold. But on the solar, I keep it to 25 seconds because it changes so quickly. I can see changes between videos. I can look at it and just physically see. You don't see the motion, but you can see the difference, between one and another. If I was to, just look at the 2 videos and I go back, things have just changed. Not always. Sometimes it's pretty quiet. But if the chromosphere is active, if you got an active prominence, or you're lucky enough to get a coronal rain or something like that, or a flare, man, that stuff is happening really quick. So 25 seconds is where I cap it. But it's hard to get. You're shooting very quick, so you're shooting at a very high frame rate, which is good news. The bad news is with the sun, the seeing is usually the worst in the daytime, so you're going to need all the frames you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
Now, when you say a high frame rate, like number-wise, what are you saying?
Well, you want at least
with the like 662. What kind of frame rate do you get with that?
Oh, I use a 462, the older version.
The 462.
I have, you can't buy the 460. The 662 has replaced the 462.
Right.
662 is the new one, and it's actually cheaper than what I pay for the 462. But the frame rates I usually get on Jupiter and things like that, tend to be around 125 frames per second, maybe 140 frames a second. Saturn, I'm usually up at around just a little over 100. Mars, I'm up a couple hundred frames a second, 250 maybe even frames
And
a
that's
second.
because it's a real small.
Yeah, real small. Yeah, the
region
light's
of
not
interest.
spread over a large area. It's a very,
Yeah.
very small field.
Yeah.
So, and I'm really blowing these things up. I mean, I'm shooting the 2x Barlow on Jupiter and Saturn. I use a 2x Barlow on an 86 on an 82.6-inch focal length scope. So you're looking at like a what's that? Somebody do the math real quick. 160 or 64 inches or something. I don't know. So, but if I'm using Mars, I'll actually use a 3x Barlow on Mars because it's so small that I'll just bring it all the way up, and it really gets. But when you get up like that, your field of view is just shrinking, shrinking, shrinking. So it gets harder to find the planet when you first get in there. You know, you got to kind of bring it up in steps. So real quick, I wonder if I can. Oh, why don't I see that? I'm going to try this again. I'm going to try the whole screen again. Doggone. Oh, maybe it's, hang on. I don't want that. I don't want that. Let me move this. Here we go. That night, this is the file I captured. It was it was the best night. Jupiter was terrible this year because we had so few windows where you could see it. And at my house, the Jupiter season ends when it's about 10, 15 degrees past the meridian because I got trees high in the west. So I have to get it more in the early part of the season up through, you know, a little past the opposition. But this was a pretty good night. This is actually a very good night. And I was with the image was captured with. But you can see even on a good night, and this is why you're shooting videos, because it gets fuzzy. The moon gets doubled sometimes up here, the moon shadow. But when I'm doing something like this, I pick an area, and for this picture, I looked right in here, right above the red spot. There was some stuff in here that occasionally would show up for a half a second or a second. And when I saw that, I was really encouraged, because if you see that happen, 4 or 5 times, 4 times even on a 25, 30-second video, you're going to get a good image because you're shooting at a high frame rate. So you're going to pick up 1,000 frames in 5 seconds. So you're going to throw 80% of these away or 85% of these away. So this is actually the best night of the winter. But that's what it's going to look like. So if you ever got and try this, don't get scared and go, oh my God, this is terrible. This is a great night. I've gone out where all you see is the 2 belts. You see nothing in here, and have gotten something, that's reasonable. So anyway, that's just what the initial thing was. So when we start, I should have, let me bring up Wave Sharp. Okay. Now we're going to do the Wave Sharp bit. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Okay, so as I said, we're going to open the files. Always defaults back to there. We'll call this is got my files in here to files. So I'm going to pick these 3 files. I'm going to load 3 files at one time. So that's all you do, just load them. You can zoom in if you want. You get zooms in there. You can blow up the whole screen. I don't think 2 had the ability to blow it up to the whole screen here. It just allowed you a small level zoom. So I think that's new in 3 versus Wave Sharp 2. But anyway, so I've loaded the images. And now I'm going to do my typical thing where I'm just going to come over here. You can see the lines where they're at. I'll just click on the balance button. They all balance. Now it looks like the colors look right. I just close that. This was exactly what we walked through before. Go to processing. Make sure RGB is there. Those default. Okay, this is what it comes up as. You notice there's no noise filters. You guys are seeing this, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm just going to jazz this up to 25. I say 25.
Yeah, 0.25. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to bring up I'll do it without bringing the noise up first, and then I'll bring the noise up. Bring noise. Okay, so this is what the sliders do. When you're sliding, nothing happens, but then when you stop, you can see things happen. Now that's really heavy-handed. I'm at 102, and you can already see green. That's just one slider. So if you get carried away and start doing this, I mean, you can get it as sharp as you want, but you really get crapified too. I mean, that's it's a bit overdone. So if we were to bring these down, excuse me one second, guys. I got to turn the light on here. I'm in my sun porch and I can't even read my notes. Try to make sure I don't screw this up. But so I'd bring these down. I think I had it down at I just fool with these and just to see, let's bring them up normal, like one at a time. So what I did is I would bring this up, and I don't want to get one real sharp because I'm going to be fooling with all of them. So let's bring it, somewhere around there. It's definite improvement, but not home. And I'll bring these guys up a bit. Maybe there. Okay. And then I'll bring up this a bit, maybe in that ballpark. Okay. Now, but that's pretty grainy. You can see the grain. It's not ridiculous, but it's not good. So now I'm going to turn on the denoise filters. And I'll click on each of these. And for this particular image, this is where it gets when you guys are doing this with your own images. This part, these values here and these sliders and these denoise levels, you're going to have to play with. Your mileage will vary, I'm pretty sure. But for a given setup, once you're pretty happy with a picture, you can kind of use that for this. If you have the same setup and the same object, now if you go from Jupiter to Saturn, you might switch around. Now you notice, I don't know if I picked, I'm going back here for a second. Let me do, I don't want to do that. I didn't pick the sharp, I just picked the first image. I didn't choose, I should have gone through and done that bit, but I can do that in a moment. I think I can do it on batch here. Yeah, that changed. You can see the difference in the two images. That's the one image. If you look there, I'll blow it up a bit.
Yeah. So
that's
the middle one's the sharp one
versus that one. I mean,
wow.
So there is a big difference. That's why I said when you go through it, when you're doing the sharpening, kind of just go through and just pick one that looks reasonably sharp before you do the processing, and that'll get you there. Now with these noise levels up there, the grain's not real bad. And we can smooth this out. Typically, if you shoot a bunch of images and a fair number, half of them come out good, you can bring it into a package called WinJupos, which it's a confusing program that really is very easy to use if you know the lingo, what they use. And we could talk about that sometime. But basically what it does is you can stack multiples of these images together, even though they were taken at different times, a few minutes apart, and it de-rotates the image. So it'll make all the images appear like they occurred at the middle point of the, say, 7 or 8 images you chose. It'll choose the middle point and it'll rotate some westward, some eastward, and then you get even a smoother image because now you've taken all those individual and just stacked them and you've smoothed it out further. You can really gain a lot. I don't want to make this sound, it sounds like I'm hearing myself talking. It sounds like it's really complicated, but it's not, it's really not. I'm probably overdoing it here. So anyway, that was the sharpening part. Okay. But you notice it's darker and it's still has an issue or two. So I did in the demo in that PowerPoint, I just clicked this, I stretched it out, did that a bit, but it's a little bit funky. So I just brought this up a little bit and I bring it up, you bring it up all the way up and you go, oh, that's too much, and you can kind of play with this. But I think at around, I say 66 or something, it was decent. Okay, something like that, go a little darker if you want. But anyway, and now you got something from where you started to where you are now. there's a significant difference. And then you get into the I just want to fix the rotate, so I just hit File Actions, and I just it was -7. That looks like it's right. Okay, I just do that. Then I go into to batch. This is where I'm going to save it. Batch save is set. There's animation and batch. I'm going to save the files first. And so you see they're not highlighted here, the align and the balance brightness. So you hit reference, align and rotate batch comes up. I'll do the brightness. I hit the batch, pop, and it's saved.
Wow.
I'll overwrite them. Okay. Because I had saved them in that file. And actually it comes up with the name. It'll say WS3, I think, on it. So you know what your images are that you brought through WaveSharp. It just tags it on the end of your file name. So that's pretty cool. And if you want to do the animation, you can just click on the animation button. Yeah, create animation comes up. You can say, I want to make it a GIF. And I'll do it at 3 frames a second. Okay, that's good. I'll just say, create. I want to go forward, but I'll just say, I think I just said create animation. Oh, generate frames. You got to generate the frames. Sorry about that. So you generate 100% saved. Then I can the create animation button is set. You click it. It puts it up there. Say okay. And everything is done. And I'm giving you kind of I'm trying to take too much time up, but if I'm racing through it, I mean, feel free to ask all the questions you want. And I'll show you basically what the process images, they have this WSB on the end, you know? So you can see them, and like there's the image saved. But here's the GIFs. I think one of these are GIFs. Now I only had 3 frames, but you can see it go back and forth a bit, you know. You can see, get the idea. This is only, but you can see how much it rotates. This is how much Jupiter rotates in about 90 seconds.
Wow.
So, I mean, you really can't go too crazy with this. If you shoot a minute, you're going to get some blurring. You're not going to be able to, but also you can really see how the frames vary in sharpness. You know, middle frame being a lot sharper.
That's great.
Anyway, so I mean, the program does a lot of neat things. It's a cool package. And I tried to put the PowerPoint up on the website, but it says the presentation can't be bigger than 300 megs, and it was like 360 megs or something because of the pictures. But maybe I'll try to put it up like in 2 pieces or something, a part 1 and part 2, so that if you wanted to refer to any of the things, because at least it shows you, it's got arrows showing what buttons I hit and the order I did things. It's not to say it's definitely not the only way to do it. In fact, the authors might be horrified at the way I do it. I wouldn't be surprised. But
Tom, one thing you could try with the PowerPoint, there's an optimization. I forget where it is, where it's buried now, but it'll optimize the pictures for size.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do
So
that.
that'll knock a lot off.
Yeah.
Instead of
That'll
storing
need
them at
much.
full
I'm almost there.
resolution, it'll store them at like screen resolution.
Yeah, yeah.
That you're looking at it on, you know. So like rather than 300 DPI, it'll do like 95 or like a 72 DPI, depending on the system.
Okay. Now, hopefully that made sense.
No, it was great. That was
You know.
really cool.
So if you, I mean, with the planets, you do that and you're done. With deep sky, you're doing a lot more. You know, you're pulling stars in, pulling stars out, color calibrations. You know, you're reducing green noise. You're doing all kinds of deconvolutions and what have you. You know, and all kinds of smoothing and different things. Blur exterminator. And there's a lot of steps. This planet, I mean, this is where I started with a digital camera. I bought a very inexpensive color camera from Orion, cost $99 to see if I would even like the idea of digital processing because I'd always used film. And this is back probably 12 years ago or more. And I just put on the sun. I had the I just bought a lunch solar scope, stuck it on there, and did it. It was easy to capture, and I said, okay, well, let me go through the processing. And I thought it was kind of neat, and I enjoyed it. I said, okay, this will be fun. And I went up to about a month later, the Stealth and I sold that camera, used that, for half the price I bought it for, $50. So I loaded very quickly, and went to NEAF, and I picked up an imaging source mono camera at the time, which was the state-of-the-art planetary camera at the time. Um, it was the go-to scope for planets. Now the QHYs and the ZWOs and SV Bonies and all, they all use the same chips, the real nice Sony chips, and they're all way better than what I used 10 years ago. So anyway.
And then the only thing you did before running WaveSharp was the
Auto stacker.
auto stacker.
Yep. And I just chose, I mean, there's I think up on the website, if you're curious about this stuff and rather than get involved with AutoStacker right now, there is the presentation, the clinics. If you go to where the clinic presentations, I think it was at the end of January of this year.
Yeah.
There's one on solar system photography, and it stepped through the capture process, like how to use SharpCap, an example, and then how to use the AutoStacker program. So you can see how that is. It's a very easy program, only like 3 things to click. So,
Tom,
yeah.
what was your frame rate with this?
The frame rate on the videos, it depends on the object, but I try to get as high as I can. On Jupiter, I got it up to about 120 frames per second.
Okay.
Saturn was not quite as high because it's darker. It's about 2.5 times darker, actually.
Did you have
So I was down. It'd be a little darker in the capture, and I inch the gain up a little more. It's always a game when you're capturing. You want to shorten the exposure to increase the gain, but if you go too crazy on the gain, you're increasing the noise, and so you're fighting. You're going to need more good frames because you're making more noise, But with Mars, I can get up over 200. On the Sun, I'm usually shooting about 150 plus frames per second. So I shoot very high frame rates. If you shoot more like I was shooting, I learned this all from Agapios in Cyprus. And I learned so much in that he gave an online session. I learned all these different things about taking lots of videos and raising the frame rate and all that kind of stuff. And it was a game changer, and it improved my pictures overnight. Really, I owe a lot to him. But anyway,
I just put the link on the chat for the folder on the club, excuse me, the club website.
Yeah, and that shows you how to. Then that shows you how to do that. It has Registax in there too. It's got everything. It's kind of a little bit of everything, but it goes through the process of how the stacking process and the capture process is also in there with those free programs. So you can kind of use those as a guide if you're talking to your relative there about getting started.
And you'll need to log on to be able to download those PDFs. Log on to the DVAA website.
Oh, I could put this up. I forgot, Gary. I was going to put this up. I could just save it as a PDF. When it's going to save, I was trying to put the PowerPoint up.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
no,
jeez.
yeah, do it as a
Oh, man.
PDF.
Okay, that was yeah. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, okay, so I'll put that one up there.
Tom, could I ask a question? This is real basic, but how do you arrive at your best focus with these images? I've tried this in the
I'll
past.
tell you, with the planets, that's a very good question. That's why I like electric focuser, because I'm not touching anything, because there's enough of problems as it is. It's funny. Different people use different things. If I'm on Saturn, I'll use Cassini's division, the dark band, and that's I use that to focus on because that's pretty distinct. It's got a high contrast. I'm always looking for high contrast. On Jupiter, some people use the moons. I can't use the moons at all to get a sharp focus, or not. It doesn't work for me. I don't use the edge either. I'll look for something, some feature that I see blink in and out, some small cloud feature, like in the one I just did, just above the red spot, there was a little bit of swirling in those clouds. I'll keep watching that, but it's a patience game because you move the focuser just a hair, and you're watching, and as you're focusing, and then you're watching it, you're watching the screen, it's changing very quickly, and maybe you improve the focus, but it's a moment of bad seeing for the next 2 seconds. So you can't jump to conclusions. You gotta kind of just tweak it. Wait about 10 seconds till you get through a period where it looks better and then gets bad again. And then you try to remember what the look better, the look better looks better than what you had before. And if it's getting worse, you tweak it back a little bit. But the focus is really important. But if you just I probably spend about 10, 15 minutes at the beginning just playing with the focus till I'm really happy with it. Unless I'm up against a time crunch. Sometimes you're setting up, it's getting dark, but right at dark is a transit of a moon. And you only get the beginning of the transit. So it's like, okay, I got 2 minutes to get this focus right. I'll get as close as I can. Pencils down. Let's go. Let's start shooting. And you just do it.
I tried a little bit of this when I first got started, and it was frustrating because I was using a Schmidt Cassegrain with the kind of the rotating focuser, and it just made the scope vibrate so much.
Yeah, you're pretty high. Now, focusing on the moon, if you start with the moon, that's why I focus on the moon.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier. And if you're lucky that night when you're out photographing the planet, the moon is up. And you can focus on the moon and then move to the planet,
Will these planetary cameras, and I never tried this, will they give you a decent image of a bright star?
Sure. I use it for I use it as my deep sky camera actually. All I have is planetary cameras. I have no cooled cameras. I have nothing, and I'm not in the same league as Gary and Brett there, but I get reasonably good pictures of deep sky. I mean, I can get a fair amount of detail. I can get a lot of detail in galaxy arms and that kind of thing, and comets and.
What I do with my deep sky photography is I'll use a bright star, Regulus or something like that, with a batten-off mask, and you can optimize your focus pretty accurately with that. And then, I don't know, maybe with that planetary camera, then you could go back to the planet and see.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it. You'll be close for sure if you do it that way, And I'll tell you, if the moon's out, I'll always go to the moon first, focus, and then move over because I know I'm going to be close.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
When I use the planetary camera for deep sky, I made a batten-off mask and I used it a couple times, but then I found that I use this SharpCat program again, same program as the planets, but it has a live stacking feature. And it has when you do live stack, it has I always get this wrong. It's full, half wave, something or other. What's that?
Full wave, half maximum.
Full half maximum. There it is. I always mess that up. Well, you can look at that. And what I do is I bring my exposure down really short, like 1 second or 1.5 seconds, crank the gain up, and I'll pick a star. And I tweak the focus to get the minimum number I can get out of that. And once I do that, then I go back to my regular exposure, which is still short for me. It's about 10 seconds I typically shoot, maybe 15 if I feel very cavalier that night. And I'll just shoot, a series of live stacks. And I mean, things like the globular clusters in 2 or 3 minutes, you get really nice detail. And if you shoot longer, of course, you get more interesting detail. You can do more with it. But I mean, I shoot a lot of most of my deep sky, I prefer black and white. Especially with galaxies and stuff, because depending on it's funny. I mean, with all astrophotography, it's kind of like, it's like being an artist, everybody has their own preferences. Some people like very subtle color, almost no color, and some people like really intense color or really high contrast or low contrast or whatever. And I've seen pictures of M31 that are totally blue. I've seen them where they're just very yellow, or greenish, different thing. Everybody's got their own take on it, and there isn't like a right or a wrong. It's just your take,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's good to try to do a color calibration on it, but the intensity of the saturation is purely up to the user, really.
Great. That was a great presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. Appreciate it. Any other questions for Tom before we move to some show and tell stuff?
Did you use a region of interest?
I do, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't mention that 'cause I didn't do the capture. But if you look at that link that Gary put up there on the website, it talks about how to capture. And the key is you want to get that frame rate up, you want to shrink that region of interest around. Planets are tiny, they're like less than a minute of arc. So you can really bring that you have a 2 meg planetary camera, which is still a small chip, and you bring that down to like a 640 by 480 or a 480 by 400 or something. You really cramp in that region of interest, and you can really jack up your frame rate.
Tom, do you have to be careful that you don't get too cute with it because you may just lose it on the frame because it's so tight?
Well, what you do is, what I do is to find it first off. I always put an eyepiece in first, right? Think about a telescope. I get it in eyepiece.
Yeah.
I get I get a high eyepiece. I think it's centered. I throw in the camera with no bar low at all. Low is just a plain camera. It's the full frame, which isn't that big anyway. But there's no bar low on it. It gives me the widest frame, and usually it's somewhere buried in the corner of the picture, and I center it. And I sync the mount and say, okay, that is where it's truly at. Then I'll go out and I'll throw the 2x Barlow in, and it won't be quite dead center. And these programs like Fire Capture and SharpCap, you can put a reticle up, so you get like the X, Y, and stuff, and so you can center it, make sure it's centered, and then you can sync the mount on it. But basically, so you bring it up in stages. So once I got 2x on, then I'll start bringing down the region of interest. But that time, the mount's tracking well. It stays in there. It may have, because you're dealing with, I mean, your field of view is only maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes of arc across. You might get some drift if you don't have feedback you can have feedback to keep it centered, but I typically don't bother with it. And I'll just tweak it every 10, 15 minutes. I'll just give a little tweak, or 5 minutes. I'll just move it to recenter it. But if you got really tight, you bring it in really tight when you're taking your video. If it drifts out, even just for a second, if it begins to clip the edge, well, you can't really use that video because you're chopping off the edge of the planet or something.
What do you mean by feedback?
You can sort of track. You can have it. You can, like SharpCap and Fire Capture can actually keep the planet centered
You
by
can tell
sending guide pulses to the mount to basically like you would for a guiding.
Yeah, but it's
So-
automatic sort of. You don't have to do anything with. It's not like PH2 or something.
Huh.
Yeah, and the other thing you can do, which is what I typically do, because sometimes the guiding gets a little the parameters get a little too finicky, and it'll make it like drift faster sometimes, is to keep the hand controller at like point 0.25 sidereal rate or something like that, and you can just actually just touch it either in between captures, especially if you're doing something like Jupiter where they're 30 or 45 seconds, or even if it's actually during a capture and you see it drifting, if you have the actual guide, the hand controller set to a low enough guide
I always have the hand control
movement rate, you can just tweak it over. You can just slowly, so you just touch it, and slowly push it over. And then Auto Stacker centers, it'll find
all the frames.
basically the centroid of the object. So it'll correct for that, the XY offset.
And even moving it, like Gary said, if you have a slow rate, you're moving a slow rate. Because I usually had to do the same thing. And even when you're capturing, it won't cause that much damage. Because that's just out of curiosity. When I first got the camera, I took images of the sun that were unguided. So just let the sun just drift. As I put on the one side of the chip, let it drift and before it got off the chip in 25, 30 seconds. I stopped the video. And then I took pictures right after that with the clock drive on. So it would track. And the difference, the clock drive pictures are better, but not by much. Not by much at all.
Yeah, you got to keep in mind if the
You're shooting real fast.
the actual frame rate, not so much the frame rate, but the actual
Exposure.
exposure time is, for a brighter planet is 4 or 5 milliseconds.
Yeah, it's very
So there
small.
isn't that much movement in that short a period of time to cause blurring because you're kind of pushing it back over. So, well, thank you again, Tom. That was great presentation. I'm sure
Thank
people will
you.
get a lot out of that. And grab those, download those PDFs. That's the whole clinic series. Even
Yeah,
if
the Clint series is a
even
good
if you were
series.
able to attend the clinic, they're great references. There's a lot of good information in those PDFs. And Joe has his talk on lunar imaging is up there also. So
Right, yeah.
the deep sky talk is up there, and the planetary and the lunar.
Yeah, a lot of good reference material.
Yeah. So show and tell. Who's got stuff? I always you got my curiosity earlier, Brett, with this with the Milky Way
Yeah,
question,
really.
and I know this is cutting into your rest time, your recovery time from the trip. So maybe we have you go first, so that in case you pass out during the session,
Okay.
we'll at
Can you
least
see,
get to see you the treats.
can you see that screen?
Yeah.
Here it is.
Now I gotta get this over here. Hold on a minute. So that is just a single 60-second exposure of the Large Magellanic Cloud under the dark sky.
That's one frame.
It's one frame.
Wow.
Yeah, let me see if I minimize this so it's out of my way here. Um, and then that's the Milky Way shot that I mentioned earlier.
Oh my
And
God.
there's really there's not much done to this. It was I've never done anything like this before. It's like I said, it's a modified camera, full frame, and it was ISO 1600 15 second, and it's a 14 millimeter f2.8. And this hasn't been edited at all. The only thing is that's not completely natural is off to the side, the one guide very quickly took his red lamp and just painted the rocks in the foreground.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
other than that,
that makes such a big difference, though, letting those stand out.
yeah. And actually, if you look at then, I think I have. Let me go here. That's just one that wasn't painted. Just of the you get a sense of what the rocks are there at the bottom. That's
Look
what
at
it
that
looked like.
horizon.
Yeah,
Look at that horizon.
yeah,
Wow.
right. A lot to learn on this. This was very tricky. I mean, like I said, I've never done this before. It's just whoops, just trying to get the stars in focus. Looking at the little screen on the DSLR camera, whatever we call them, the cameras now, the full frame mirrorless camera. Um, that wasn't the main reason I was down there. I was down there to do deep sky stuff, but you can't help but try to take a couple pictures of this.
Yeah, it's
Oh yeah,
beautiful.
spectacular.
And then it's first pass of LMC. That was kind of blown out. And this all I did on these was take them in PixInsight. This is 78 78 minutes, so 78 60-second exposures. And all I did in there is just a GHS stretch on it and like blur exterminator, and that was it. That's as far as I
Wow.
got with it. Not even sure what to do with them. But that cloud is huge, and I think that's a good name for it. It's a cloud because it looks like a big cloud, and when you put your fist out, you can't quite cover it. Um, and I looked up what it what they show is the size of it. I mean, it's like 12 degrees by 8 degrees.
Wow.
I mean,
What scope is this? Is this the 61?
this is the 50. This is the mini, the Red Cat Mini.
Oh, the
So
mini.
it's
Okay.
the 51 focal. It's a 172 focal length, and then it's the ASI 2400 full frame. So the field of view on this is about 12 by 8. So you get a sense, and there's more stuff off here to the side. I just didn't stretch it enough for us to see any of that yet. But the field of view of that rig, the way I just mentioned it, is about 12 degrees by 8 degrees. So you can
Wow,
get a
that's
sense
really
of how
big.
big that thing is.
So this is a full frame sensor on that
This is the full frame
short
sensor.
focal length.
Right. It's the 2400. That's the one that doesn't have the well depth or the it doesn't have the density or the megapixel of what's the 6200, I think is
Yeah,
like
the 6200 is the full one. Yeah.
yeah. But
Wow.
the field of view on that with that little mini cat is pretty cool. And then hopefully I'll show you some pictures that I took of some targets down there that of course we can't see up here. I mean, that was the number one goal was to try to capture as many of the southern sky stuff that we don't see up here. And I think we got most of them. I think we got a fair amount of time with most of them. And you actually didn't need a lot of time because the skies were so dark.
Yeah, and you said this is what? Like less than 2 hours?
This is 78 60-second exposures.
Wow, so
I
a
got
little over
I
an
have
hour.
you have another night of it of this. Once it got to astronomical darkness, which was about 7:40 or so when we were there, this is at about 15 degrees above the horizon. So we only had only had a little time to get it, but you could shoot right down to the horizon just about because there's nothing there. I mean, and there's no atmosphere to speak of. I mean, it was pretty clear or crisp right to the horizon. I'll also be showing got the comet and the Orion Nebula in the same frame with this rig, which looks pretty cool. And I'll have that hopefully developed and processed for the next meeting.
Fantastic.
Really nice.
And again, they were real low on the horizon too, but because of where we were in the environment, you could shoot them until the comet was just about at the horizon.
That's insane. I assume you shot the small Magellanic Cloud
Yeah,
also.
yeah. So that was coming up. That was coming up later in the evening, and yeah, I got that too. And some other interesting targets that I don't even have the list together, so I'm not even prepared to tell you what all we have. But I'll see that I have that all together for July. I think you said, or July or August for the August
Yeah,
meeting.
August figure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll have everything processed by then because like I said, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rigs going, 3 smart scopes, and the two Red Cats that I had, the mini and the Red Cat 61, and I went down with 3 cameras. I went down with the full frame, and then the APS-C, the 2600, and the 585, and I was swapping them between scopes depending upon what I wanted to shoot for what the field of view was.
Wow. Impressive.
But not
Very
but
cool.
not too often, Gary, because we know what happens when I take cameras out of scopes in the middle of the night.
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. I have it actually sitting by the door to bring you if you're going to be at the meeting.
You could use it as your doorstop if you want.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's really, I'll stop sharing. That's really all I have for now. I just got to go through all the data and organize it and process it.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. That's
Sure.
fantastic. That's really
Yeah.
encouraging.
Yeah.
So Anything else? Anyone else?
I can show a couple.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
It's been still pretty disappointing weather.
Yeah, you guys have had a lot of storms down there. It's just
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, I think it's my fault since
Okay,
since I
well,
had
thank
the-
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Since I got the scope down there, it's been miserable.
Yeah, and a couple clear nights were windy, and I
Mhm.
ended up having to throw everything away from those nights.
Hmm.
I was actually talking to Tom about that. I mean, streaks. The stars are streaks
Oh,
just
wow.
from the telescope shaking.
Just getting buffeted.
Yeah. So I've collected the few that I have probably over the past couple months. Now, one thing I did do is I replaced the S30 with the S30 Pro.
Oh, okay.
And I gave my S30 to my son. So he's playing with that.
So you have the Pro down there now?
I have the Pro down there now.
Hey, Steve, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. So, did you have them ship the 30 back like in the box that you shipped the 30 Pro down in? Is that how you work that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they had a stock of 30 Pros for sale.
Okay.
So I bought one. And then they shipped the 30 back to me in that box. And it was like $12 to have it shipped back.
All right.
Oh, I have to share. Whoops. What did I do?
It's going. See your browser.
We're looking at your
You got your desktop.
Okay.
and we're looking at the website event count. There we go.
There you go.
So this is the box galaxy. You see it here in the middle.
Yeah.
And I just find this really interesting. So if I zoom in, so this is with the 30 Pro. Do I have the time up here? No. So if I zoom in, this is just really interesting galaxy to me.
That's wild. Yeah.
How this formed in this shape is mind-boggling to me. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
I don't know. Is it some kind of, was it the result of something interacting? Like, 10 billion years ago, there was a merger?
No, it almost has to be. I wonder if there's even something behind it, that we're
Yeah,
not
it could
seeing.
be. I intend on researching it.
Yeah.
I did a
that's
quick
fascinating.
research and didn't get a lot of information. So I have to do more research.
What's the number on that? Is that, I can't read.
This is NGC 4449.
4449. Is that low, Steve? Is that low in there? Like,
Yeah.
since you're in a
It's in,
southern lab?
it's in Kane's Venetisi
Oh, okay. Okay.
from Starfront.
Right. Right.
So next, going to show a annotation of this image. And I don't know if you can see all the little
Yeah.
blue markings, but it's the second thing is it's amazing how many galaxies are in this image.
Yeah, that whole band
Yeah. Look at that.
around the Dipper and Canes and all the way down through Como and Virgo.
There's an interesting one here, looks like a smudge.
Yeah. It's like a mini box galaxy. Or one a lot further away.
So maybe well, I'm going to research this a little more, and maybe I'll have some more information on it in a future meeting. Then we have, of course, the Eagle, and this is with the S30 Pro. Obviously, as opposed to a larger telescope, you can't get good detail here, but
Yeah, but still.
there is
The
some.
size of the
Feeling
nebula,
good.
though, man, nebula's huge.
And this was 2 hours, 60 second subs.
You having good results with 60 seconds? You're getting like low dropout?
I was for a while, and then started having a lot of trouble, and that's probably partially due to the wind. And I backed off to 30 or 20, and we'll see what the future is. But for a while, I was having good luck with it. Now, how well they set it up and polar aligned it, I don't know. That's hard to tell.
Well, to get 60 seconds with nice round stars like that, that must be pretty good. It's
So this,
assuming no wind.
yeah. So here's a Leo triplet, and somehow it got framed off center. And this is with the Pro. So it still amazes me with these little smart telescopes, some of the detail that you can get.
Yeah.
This came out smudgy for some reason.
A pinwheel.
But here's the pinwheel. This is with the S30. Do I have a date here? This is March. And 106 is one of my projects. I know there's like 4 arms.
It's a cool galaxy.
Yeah, there's like 4 arms in this, and I can barely see 2 here. And everything subsequent to this, this was April 20th. Oh wait, yeah, April 8th. All I'm shooting right now is 106 whenever I get a chance, because I want to build the detail in this. But I'm I'm not getting a lot of results because of the weather, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, that'll be cool. There's a lot in there to start with, so you're off to a great start.
Yeah, there's a start, and I don't know what this guy is down here. Anybody have an idea? Over in bottom right-hand corner.
I don't know.
I didn't annotate this. No.
Nice.
And 106. Let me see. I have Stellarium open here. At the right orientation? No. So the one real close to it's NGC 4248. That
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So this is a little further away
4217.
from that.
Does it have a name associated to it?
Oh, 4240. No, just the number.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other one's an edge on, NGC 4217, but I don't see any nice
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can see the dust lane. You pull it out.
Yeah,
and
he's a
It
real
might be.
prominent dust lane.
yeah.
Is it 17 or is it 26? Because 17 is further away. We would see 26 before that. 40, 42, 26. It's big though.
Yeah.
It looks like 17 to me, just the shape
17?
and the dust lane.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm using Stellarium too on my phone.
So this is about three and a
Oh,
half.
yeah, it does. Yeah, once I expand it, yeah. Yeah, 4217.
That's cool. The little mini burger.
Yeah, that's it, because it's got that bright star off the edge of it too.
There you go.
Yep. Very cool.
And
Monkey head.
a monkey head.
Yeah.
That's a cool one. That's
So
with the internal filter, I guess.
this is
blue
with
band?
the HAO3 filter, 60-second subs, 2 hours. And that's with the original S30, not the Pro.
Okay.
And the last one I have,
Hmm.
this tadpole,
Headphones. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's not great, but it does have, a fair amount of finer detail. And here's the tadpoles on the side here. So not too bad.
No, that's cool. It has a lot of like a lot of contrast. It has very dramatic looking.
Yeah, and that goes back to personal preferences too.
Yeah, yeah.
I tend to be darker and a little more contrasty than.
Yeah, it looks cool. It's got a cool look. Looks like the whole thing's on fire.
So over the past couple months, I have other things in the queue here, but I've taken several nights worth of captures and put them into PixInsight and just ended up deleting the whole folder, throwing everything away. So I've had a few of those.
Yeah. Great shots.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Really nice. Talking about the dark sky, I did a little experiment. I was playing around with the Red Cat 51, and I wound up shooting Markarian's chain, which you would think is not really a great subject for something that's that wide a field of view. But I've shot it before. It's well placed this time of year, and I thought, let me just get some photons while I can. It wasn't a great night. It was really a hazy kind of night, but I'll take what I can get sometimes. And this is in my backyard. And then I happened to go. Tracy and I decided to just get away for a couple of days, so we went up to Hickory Run. And John, I wound up staying in that Loop C where you had stayed
Yeah.
to try to get some, try
It's
to
like
bring my
close enough.
scope.
Yeah.
And it was similar kind of night, like a little bit hazy, not cloudy, just hazy, a lot of upper muck stuff. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to shoot the same thing again, and then I'll do a comparison of shooting like a couple hours in my backyard and a couple hours at a site that's, almost 2 magnitudes darker, or probably close to 1.5 magnitudes darker, and then look at the comparison, and then also combine all the data. So I put that together. I can share that with you guys if you'd like to see that. I think it was kind of an interesting little comparison. Let me do this. Oh, I don't want to chat. I want to share. There we go. I'm going to share this screen, and then I'll move stuff over there. So, no, where am I here?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So here's a quick little show and tell thing. So this is Markarian's chain from my backyard, from Hickory Run, and then both sites combined, both sets of images combined. So this is shot from my backyard. with the Red Cat 51, with a crop sensor, the ASI 2600 MC Pro. I use the Optilong L-Quad Enhance, which is basically a broadband light pollution filter. And then ASI Air Plus to control it. I have one of the AM3 mounts, and then a small SV Bony 30mm guide scope with a small guide camera. So the field of view is a little less than 5.5 degrees by around 3¾ degrees. This was shot on May 9th. SQM level was around 18.6. And that's fairly typical for me. On a really good night, I can get to maybe 19.1 in my backyard, but it's more often in this kind of range, 18.4, 18.6, 18.8. And it was partly clear according to the transparency nomenclature. So this was 2 hours and 14 minutes worth of data. This is a little longer. I had a little more time before it went behind a tree at Hickory Run. So it's 2 hours and 38 minutes. So you're looking at what, an extra 20 minutes worth of data, 24 minutes worth of data. But and these are processed as close to identical as I could get. Obviously, there's a little less noise in this because it's in a darker sky. So the histogram and the black points are a little bit different, but every step is as close as I could make it to the way I processed each image. So again, that's the backyard. You can see the sky glow. This is Hickory Run, same framing. And then this is both sets of data combined. Now at this image scale, you can't see much. So I said, okay, well, let me look at each of these. And what I did was I used a 2x drizzle on this because this rig is very undersampled. So the native image scale is like 3.1 arc seconds per pixel with that Red Cat 51 and the 2600. So by drizzling at 2x, you get 1.55 arc seconds per pixel, which isn't terribly oversampled. Like ideally for the scene conditions around here, maybe you're at 1.25 or something like that, arc seconds per pixel, 1.5. So this is kind of a sweet spot for that setup with a 2x drizzle. So you can see at home, this is 2 hours and 14 minutes of data. That's what I got. Hickory Run, 2 hours and 38 minutes worth of data. So 24 minutes more data, not super significant. And then both of them combined. And the interesting thing here to me is just how big a difference having a slightly darker sky makes for almost the same conditions with almost the same amount of data and as identical processing as I could get. But even that said, even taking the less good data or whatever, and you combine them, it still improves the image because the noise floor goes down. So a lot of that graininess is significantly reduced by just adding those extra photons because you're still getting that Gaussian noise averaging. You're basically still averaging the noise down because you have more exposures. So these are the eyes galaxies. Here's the same comparison. Home, Hickory Run. Oh, I'm sorry. This is supposed to say both. I probably messed that up. Yeah, sorry about that. That's supposed to say both on all of them. The first one I got right. I'm not sure why. Oh no, I got it wrong on all of them. Sorry about
You
that.
were consistent.
That's good. Yeah. So if you're consistent, at least you can improve by changing something. So this is supposed to be both. So this is NGC 86, the big blob, and then NGC 4402. And you can see here how, again, that both session with everything in there is better. It's better than each of these individually, which you would expect, but considering that you're adding a bunch of not so great data to it, it might not be better. And even
Gary,
a feature like this, even a real small galaxy like that, a distant galaxy has good definition. This is that little cluster that's part of it with this barred spiral here. And even that, you can see how it's noticeably nicer. So then I zoomed way in. I looked at M99, which if you go back to the original picture, I think I have it here, it's down in this corner. So in terms of image scale here, this is what I'm blowing up, that tiny little thing down there. Home, Hickory Run, and both. Again, similar detail, but lower noise because I'm adding in this extra data. So that's the whole picture again with both. I did get it right here. And then this to Steve's point. So this is just the Messier and the NGC IC objects. So in that field of view, there's 9 Messier objects listed and then 92 NGC and IC objects. If I turn on the plate solving for the PGC galaxies, that's what it looks like.
Wow.
And it didn't paint 12 of the NGC ICs because the titles overlapped and it couldn't figure out a way to not have the text collide. So it dropped 12 of them to avoid the text from overlapping. So there would be 9 Messier, 92 these guys, and 350 PGC galaxies in a little less than 5.5 by 3 3/4 field of view image.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling. And even if you zoom in, so I took this little corner here where M87 is, I cropped that. And most of the PGCs have something in it that doesn't look like, well, I mean, that looks like a star. That doesn't have anything in it. They look like a star. Nothing. But these guys are little fuzzy things. So it just blows my mind, that kind of stuff, like you were saying, Steve. But anyway, I hope this was helpful in terms of a little comparison of just what a slightly darker sky can make. So theoretically, every magnitude is 2.51 times brighter or darker, depending on the direction you're going. And if things were linear, which they're not, but if they're approximately linear, then 1 magnitude darker sky, you would need 2.5 times the exposure time to get the same signal to noise ratio. Because the
That's very interesting, Gary.
Yeah, the background is, basically noise. And then this is that M13. So this is what we're going to process. This is what we're going to process next month. I have them open here. I did 2x drizzle on this too for the same reasons. So this is the let me make sure yeah. So these are the 2 images, and the interesting thing to me with this. So this one is the I'm trying to see which one's which is the drizzle. Well, we'll see. Yeah. So this is resampled by a factor of half. So this would be the 3.1 arc seconds per pixel. And this is the 2x drizzle. Yeah, here it is there, 2x drizzle with no resampling. So the thing that's kind of cool here is if you zoom in on this, I'll get it scaled about the same. So that would be, I'd have to go to 200% here to get it the same. So let's go to 200. So even zoomed in with this is the left what you're seeing on the left is 2x drizzle. That's how I processed it. And then I resampled it at the last step to get it to be regular, regular size for that image scale, for that scope camera combination. But
So,
even
Gary,
yeah.
I've heard of this drizzling and then resampling. What's the reason for that?
So the reason for that is that when you are under sample, like this setup is, this camera telescope combination, you're basically not you're not capturing enough data to maintain the sort of spatial resolution of the actual image. So it's basic like sampling theory, where you need to sample at twice the maximum frequency.
Yeah,
what you're capturing.
My question though, I do drizzling, but I leave it that way. Why do you resample back down?
Oh, just to make the file smaller.
Oh, okay.
If I'm going to post it or something,
Got it.
it's just way too big a file.
That has nothing to do with the image.
Yeah. So it would be 4 times the size in terms of.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Steve. Yeah.
Yep.
But now when you zoom way in, especially if you get to individual stars, if you zoom way in, and try to get to the same field of view here. Now the computer is actually interpolating right now. If I had this in Photoshop, you would see the pixels on that. In fact, let me do that. Let me open. I have Photoshop right here. Let me just drop it in. This'll clarify what I'm trying to show. So this is that image without the interpolation of the computer. So if I go to an individual star here, oops. Now I'm going to drop in the resampled one. You can see how those star. What am I? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong tool. I'm on a crop tool. So this, I have it set to show the pixels. So if I zoom way in on an individual star, you can see that there's a lot more pixels now. I'm not on the same exact stars, but let me get the one that's here. Let's go here where that's kind of big, so we can get to that. I just want some kind of anchor so I know where I am. So you can see here how many pixels are devoted to that star. We're going to look at that star here, and you can see the resampled is, a lot coarser, obviously. So this technically does not have enough pixels to capture that star. You look at this star here, right, on the drizzle image, you can see that there's actually some pixels there. You look at this, there's just 2 pixels, and really just kind of 1. So drizzling that image allows me to capture it more fully, and statistically, because it's combining the surrounding image, the surrounding pixels to fabricate those intermediate pixels, it actually winds up, you can reduce the size of the individual pixels slightly without degrading the image.
If you drizzle and do a sharpening afterward, that seems to me like it would enhance things.
Yeah, well, you basically are drizzling it as you're processing it, as you're doing the pre-processing. right? So when it's stacking, it stacks it, it generates the drizzle data, and then it actually does the drizzle in order to get the higher resolution image. At that point, you process it just like you would any other image. The only sharpening here is deconvolution from Blur Exterminator. So there's no unsharp mask or anything done to this. This is just deconvolution. But even, I guess the thing that impressed me with this is that even at that image scale, like M13 is pretty small in that image compared to how you usually see M13 with, shot with an SCT, where it's, it's like this, right? It's most of the image. Even when it's that small, if you keep zooming in, there's a lot of detail still in there. I mean, you can resolve stuff into that core. And that to me is just a testament of the new how good the cameras are now and how good the optics are. This was shot from Hickory Run. So this is, this is a little bit darker sky. It's not Cherry Spring sky by any means, or certainly where you were, Brett. This is just from somewhere up, like in the Poconos, but not a sparse area of the Poconos. So, and then this was that M51. So at some point, Nelson, if you want to investigate that, how to process that or something, we can talk about that at some future meeting or something.
I've got one for Tom, if I could share.
Yeah.
And the button is sharing button. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay. Screen share. Okay. This is for Tom. And can we have a moment of silence for Questar? First deep sky object I saw was in my driveway here in about 1980. A friend of mine had a 3.5-inch Questar, and he set it up, and he knew the heavens, and that's the first thing I saw, and it was, wow, so much detail. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, and it's black and white. The other night after M51, clouds were moving in, and I just said, let me just take some luminance through the luminance filter and stack them the other night just to see a bunch of stars, and it's got that central star. It's that's pretty nice, but M57 is my goal for the 8-inch Meade that I've got. I want to really check that out. But is everybody on the groups.io page? Does everybody typically?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Most people.
So
are,
you guys saw the what Dan did with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
It was noticeable.
oh, you could say so. All right, so stop share. We return control to you, the viewer.
Cool. So anything else before we wrap things up? That's it. Okay. So next month we'll do the M13, that image that we just looked at, the core. That'll be relatively straightforward. So there's no star extraction, just some stretching, and then color calibration, blur exterminator, some noise reduction, and then some final stretching tweaks and stuff like that. And that'll be a good shouldn't take too long to do that. I'll show a couple slides of the workflow, and then we'll just process it live and then see what we come out with. That sound good?
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Tom, for an excellent presentation. I really appreciate you putting that together. And Brett, thank you for offering to do the thing in August. That'll be great. We're all looking forward to that. And thanks everyone for attending and for sharing their time and their images.